In the grand theater of the cosmos, where planets arc through space and stars blaze for billions of years, the Earth is a small, spinning miracle, held in place by gravity, lit by a modest star we call the Sun. Day after day, the Sun rises, unquestioned, reliable, eternal, and then, one day, it vanishes. Not for long, just a few minutes, but it's enough. Enough to change the way we see the universe. Enough to remind us how little we control and how much we've learned. A solar eclipse is not just a shadow. It's a moment where everything aligns. Earth, Moon, and Sun, three celestial bodies, caught in a perfect, impossible balance. And we are standing on the one planet where this exact alignment creates such beauty, where the Moon and the Sun appear the same size in the sky. It's as if the universe knew we would be watching, and we are. Not by chance, not by instinct, but by knowledge, because we know when to look up. Long before cities rose, before science had a name, humans looked up at the stars and began to wonder. The night sky was a mystery, full of patterns and questions. The sun and moon, the seasons, the tides, they shaped our lives. They gave us time. But eclipses? Eclipses were different. They came without warning. The sky darkened. The sun disappeared. Fear swept through the people, fear of the unknown. To the ancients, an eclipse was a sign from the gods, a battle between light and darkness, a divine message, a punishment, a warning. But something else stirred beneath that fear, curiosity. Even in the earliest records, we see hints of understanding. Stone carvings, clay tablets, oral traditions. In Mesopotamia, the Babylonians recorded hundreds of eclipses over generations. They recognized a pattern, the Saros cycle. Every 18 years or so, the eclipse is repeated, not in the same place, but under similar conditions. In Mesoamerica, the Maya developed astronomical calendars so precise, they predicted eclipses centuries into the future. In China, eclipse prediction was a matter of political power. Emperors who failed to foresee them were said to lose the favor of the heavens. These were not coincidences. They were the early stirrings of science, careful observation across generations, turning mystery into method. In the ancient Greek world, thinkers began to strip away myth and replace it with reason. Aristarchus proposed that the Earth orbited the Sun. Hipparchus studied the Moon's distance and shape. Ptolemy refined planetary models and constructed tools to calculate celestial alignments. With geometry and philosophy, the Greeks began mapping the sky with math. And yet, without telescopes, without satellites, without computers, they already knew. Eclipses could be predicted. They just needed to solve the puzzle of where. Because an eclipse doesn't happen everywhere. A total solar eclipse may be visible from just a tiny slice of Earth, sometimes only a few hundred kilometers wide. To predict it, one must know the mechanics of motion, not just when the sun and moon align, but where their shadows will fall on a rotating planet. And that would take centuries more to master. Then came the revolution. Copernicus put the sun at the center of the solar system. Galileo, with his telescope, confirmed that the moon was a world with mountains, valleys, and curves that could cast shadows. And Isaac Newton gave us the laws of gravity, and with them, the ability to understand how every object in the solar system moves. Now, eclipse prediction was no longer about guessing. It was about calculating. Edmund Halley used Newton's equations to forecast the total solar eclipse of 1715, down to the minute, in England. It was the first time a total eclipse was not feared, but celebrated. People gathered to witness it, not with dread, but with anticipation. Not with myth, but with math. Here is the secret. The moon's orbit is tilted about 5 degrees relative to Earth's orbit around the sun. That tilt is why eclipses don't happen every month. Most of the time, the moon's shadow misses Earth entirely. But twice a year, the orbits align, and the moon crosses the same plane as the sun. These are called eclipse seasons. When a new moon occurs during one of these windows, and the geometry is just right, the moon passes directly between Earth and the sun, and a solar eclipse is born. But it's more than timing. It's about distance, curvature, and speed. The moon's shadow races across the Earth at over 1,600 kilometers per hour. The band where the eclipse is total, the umbra, might last only minutes in any one place. Outside that path is the penumbra, where the eclipse is only partial. You'll see the moon take a bite from the sun, but not fully cover it. To stand in the path of totality is to be in the exact right place at the exact right time to see the sun disappear. And we know where to stand, thanks to centuries of prediction. Today, eclipse prediction is a science of staggering precision. NASA and observatories around the world use high-resolution models of celestial mechanics. They track not just the sun and moon, but Earth's exact shape, its axis wobble, even the slow drag of the tides on our planet's rotation. They calculate how the shadow will curve over mountains, across oceans, through clouds. With these tools, we can map an eclipse path to within meters and to the second, hundreds of years in advance. We know, for example, that on August 12, 2045, the United States will experience a solar eclipse that will last over 6 minutes, the longest since 1919. We know what city will be in darkness, what valley, what schoolyard, what backyard. This is no longer prediction. This is certainty. And when the day comes, we gather. We travel across countries, across oceans, just to stand under the shadow of the moon. We wait. We watch. The sky dims. The air cools. The wind stills. And then, at the moment of totality, the sun vanishes. The corona flares into view like a crown of ghostly fire. Stars appear. Venus glimmers. The world falls silent. And in that silence, we feel it. All. Connection. Humility. This is why we predict. Not just for science. Not just for accuracy. But for meaning. So that when this moment comes, this rare, perfect alignment, we are not caught by surprise. We are ready. We are present. We are looking up. We already know when the next 1,000 eclipses will happen. We've charted every one until the year 3000. We won't be here to see them all, but someone will. A child born today could one day watch the 2081 eclipse over Asia. Their grandchild might witness the one in 2134. And the data we gather now will guide them, just as ancient watchers guided us. In this, we are not separate from the past or future. We are part of a continuum of watching, learning, and knowing. Clapperboard, final scene, the eclipse ends. The sun returns. Light floods the earth. People cheer, cry, hug. Fade to stars. Studio microphone narrator. The light returns. The shadow recedes. And life continues. But something has changed. Because in that brief darkness, we saw the universe align. We saw the power of knowledge, the beauty of mathematics, the poetry of motion. And we were ready, not because we guessed, but because we understood. This is how we know when to look up.